Hello, everyone, and welcome back. My guest for this episode is David Terk, who is returning to discuss special needs trusts today. David is an expert in special needs planning. He always knew he wanted to do work that would result in changing people's lives for the better, and special needs planning certainly fits that description. David enjoys the challenge of helping people maximize and protect the benefits they are entitled to, and is passionate about helping families create a secure future for all their loved ones. He is a highly sought-after speaker on the many subjects and issues that affect the special needs community and provides comprehensive special needs planning services through his firm, Serenitas Special Needs Planning. He holds a BA from Tulane University and an MBA from Pepperdine University. Welcome back, David. Really happy to have you back today.
Great to be here.
So today we are going to talk about special needs trusts. So tell me, please, let's start by telling me what is a special needs trust and why does it benefit my child or whomever to have one?
Well, perfect question. A special needs trust is specifically designed to allow one to have supplemental, highlight, underline, bold, supplemental assets that can provide for their care and comfort in the future that are supplemental to government benefits. The sticky issue with government benefits are that anyone who is receiving SSI benefits, supplemental security income, is not allowed to have more than $2,000 of assets in their name. Mm-hmm. It is very easy for little mistakes to happen, even for the most careful people, to violate that $2,000 threshold. And families have been previously put in the position of not being able to save for their disabled child. A special needs trust creates an architecture, if you will, a place to put current and future savings, assets for your disabled child.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So what sort of special needs trusts are there? Are there different kinds of special needs trusts? For example, let's say somebody already has a living trust of their own or a will. How do those things work together? And also, a lot of people may want to ask, but, my child only gets SSI. For example, You brought that up. Why do I need a special needs trust? That's not really, that much, and, it's way less than $2,000 a month, and we always spend it. So address that. Why would they need one if they only get SSI, or if there's already a living trust or a will in place?
Okay. Couple things here. Let's make sure I hit all of those. Mm-hmm. First of all, it is actually most important for anyone receiving SSI to utilize a special needs trust or a type of account that would protect assets. If there are really very, very few assets, there may be other options that might be appropriate. Typically, however, a special needs trust is going to be your most flexible, easiest way to manage all of those things that come in the future, whether it's possibly an inheritance that comes from grandma and grandpa, or a legal settlement. There are all sorts of different situations. So starting off, there are different types of special needs trusts for different situations. When we are proactive, creating a separate third-party, irrevocable, living special needs trust would be a proactive way to approach planning. This sets up a special needs trust which is created by anyone out there in the world except the beneficiary, the person living with special needs. So the difference when it comes to how the government looks at your money is who owns that money. If your child owns the money and is receiving benefits, that's a totally different story than if mom and dad or other relatives or friends are contributing. And that's where third-party money would go, would be in a third-party special needs trust, where it is protected from lawsuits and creditors. It is not considered to be a countable resource by Social Security or Medi-Cal. Mm-hmm. Here's the other point about government benefits and how they relate to special needs trusts. It is not just Social Security that we are concerned with. If your child has received any Medicaid or Medi-Cal services, if they run into money, they get an inheritance, Medi-Cal can come back and ask for past payment for past services rendered, potentially making that windfall inheritance disappear. So it's really important. Yes. Yes. So Medi-Cal, that is one aspect where families think, oh, well, I don't have anything. I'm only getting SSI. It is most important for families who have those benefits to be able to protect them and maximize what they're able to receive for their child.
So basically what you're saying is, sorry about that. Basically what you're saying is this is a way to protect the whatever might come in down the road, even if there's not a lot right now, from in the future potentially if they were to be involved in a lawsuit or if there were to be creditors or anyone that may come into the picture, they can't touch anything that's in that special needs trust, correct?
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. So they could be sued. One could have, let's say, a car accident. Mm-hmm. They don't have anything in their checking account. They have funds in a special needs trust, but that is protected. The irrevocable living special needs trust is protected and unattachable to those lawsuits and creditors.
Now, another question. Now, the Medicaid issue that you brought up was very interesting. So let's say they're on Medicaid, for 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, whatever, and then suddenly they come into a windfall, the inheritance that you talked about, for example, or they win the lottery, whatever. So Medicaid or Medi-Cal, depending upon where you live, can come back and basically say, we want you to now pay us back everything that we paid on your behalf for that last 10 or 15 or 20 years? Is that what you're saying? That's right.
Yes, that's right. They can. And that one item can eliminate all of the best intentions of family wishing to leave money to the special needs trust. If it's not left to the special needs trust and goes directly to the person, Medi-Cal, Medicaid can come back and ask for that. Now, this dovetails into your other question about, are there other types of special needs trusts? And the answer is yes. And that is exactly where I mentioned that we were being initially proactive by creating a third-party special needs trust. So let's say mom and dad go and create that special needs trust. They're the third party. They're being proactive. They're creating this structure that can accommodate other assets. However, life is imperfect, as we know. Even the best laid plans can be foiled. And if a child receives money directly, a couple things may happen. One, let's say they get an inheritance from grandpa, and grandpa leaves it directly to the child and not to any designated special needs trust. Now that grandchild has a $100,000 inheritance in their name. They've received $80,000 of treatments, and of course that it's going to leave very little behind. If you were to ask Social Security or Medi-Cal what to do, they will most likely tell you to spend it down, which absolutely solves the problem, but it is certainly not the most effective way to handle assets for someone in the future to frivolously spend $100,000.
Right. One would hope that one would invest it, or put it, maybe spend some of it and put some of it away for the future.
Exactly, but how do you do that if it is in their name? And we need to find a mechanism to protect these funds so that the state isn't going to come back and take it. And the way that is done is by utilizing a different type of special needs trust, which in California is called a disability trust. Mm-hmm. Nationally at the federal level, it's known as an OBRA 93, that's OBRA 93, mm-hmm. Medicaid Payback Trust. So what that means, you can tell by the title. By the way, OBRA, not that you asked, but I'll tell you anyway. Okay. OBRA stands for Omnibus Budget Reconciliation Act of 1993. Congress had passed in the Reconciliation Act the ability to create a disability trust for those impacted. Prior to this, the only answer to maintaining benefits was to frivolously spend your money down to below $2,000.
Wow.
Until 1993, that was really the solution. Or you simply ignored who your child was and you hid the money with someone else. Mm-hmm. So this allowed a legal structure to accommodate that.
Now, when you say accommodate that, how does that work? Let's say that $100,000 from Grandpa.
Exactly. So it's going to work really the same way as a third-party special needs trust would, except that when the beneficiary passes, mm-hmm. anything remaining will first go back to Medi-Cal mm-hmm. before going to any other beneficiaries.
I see.
So from a proactive planning point of view, it's my goal that families maintain as many resources as possible and let them make the decisions for using those assets properly. I would much prefer that families have those assets than the government recover them.
Oh, absolutely. But why would somebody choose to do an OBRA trust as opposed to just a regular special needs trust, third-party special needs trust?
Well, two reasons. One, many times people are they don't know any better, and that's what someone will set up for them. Mm-hmm. It works, but it is not necessarily the best way to approach it. Mm-hmm. It depends on the situation. With a disability trust, that is really effective when assets come directly to your child, whether there could be a legal settlement. That is often how it happens. Mm-hmm. When the settlement comes in, they may not be able to direct it to a third-party special needs trust. It may have to go directly to the individual. Mm-hmm. And it's those types of situations that can create that problem. Also, overpayment by Social Security. Here's a crazy one. Families will apply for Social Security or reapply for appeal for more benefits. During that appeal time, it may take 6 months for Social Security to respond. If they respond positively, you'll then get a check for the last 6 months. Mm-hmm. That could be in excess of the $2,000 threshold that you are allowed to have. So the check that Social Security is going to send you is going to make you ineligible for the benefit that you just got back on.
Oh my gosh.
Right? It is maddening. Mm-hmm. A disability trust is a good potential answer for that. There is another type of account, which isn't a trust. I'll mention it briefly. It's called an ABLE account. Mm-hmm. This will allow a person to put up to $15,000 cash in there per year. So if it is a smaller problem under $15,000, that can be handled without even having to create a type of trust.
Mm-hmm.
I know there are a lot of details. This is just scratching the surface, but
right. And I also imagine there's different costs involved at each level. In other words, setting up an ABLE account would probably be the least costly alternative, and then working your way up to the full-blown special needs trust, depending upon what the situation is and what your needs are.
Yeah, it does tend to be that way. ABLE accounts are very inexpensive and easy to open up. Mm-hmm. They serve a purpose, and I know we're going to talk about this in more depth on another segment, but definitely. It is a very easy solution that has been created by the federal government and implemented by the states in exactly the same way that 529 college savings programs were done decades ago.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, that makes sense. Question, do you briefly want to touch on how this would work in tandem with or in conjunction with, let's say, a power of attorney or a conservatorship, which we know a lot of parents do set up for their special needs child when they, turn 18, and then the question becomes, do you want them conserved or not, or do you want to do a power of attorney or not? How would this work in conjunction with that?
It fits in when we're talking about planning. All of those topics fall under the umbrella of planning. So it's not just creating all of the appropriate legal documents, which all work together, by the way, to go back to your first question about a will and a family trust. Mm-hmm. Each one of those documents work together. So going back to our let's be proactive model of creating a third-party special needs trust, there are three main documents that are going to work together. There's the will, which is a public document. It will name your personal representatives, successors, as well as successor conservators or guardians, depending on the state you're in. Mm-hmm. It'll also dictate where your assets are. When we set things up appropriately, your will is basically going to say that your assets belong in your family trust, which is a private document. It is not subject to probate. Its delays or costs, which is, expensive and not workable for someone who needs to access those funds for care. When mom and dad pass away, they're going to need assets for care, and it can't be tied up in probate. Mm-hmm. So those three documents, the will, the family trust, and the special needs trust, all work together. They refer to each other and all have to be done properly. Terms in a will or a family trust, you could have a perfectly drafted special needs trust, which can be undone by imperfect language in the will or family trust itself. So something to be aware of.
Okay, so basically, because you handle the overall planning picture, you would be able to look at all these different documents and make sure that they are working as they should properly together, to make sure that there's nothing that slips between the cracks or nothing that gets undone inadvertently.
Correct. So just as an easy example for families to understand, there's standard language in family trusts, which are called revocable living trusts, mm-hmm. also known as a family trust. It can be changed at any time for any reason. I'm sorry, where was I going with that?
about basically, the overall picture and making sure that nothing gets undone.
Oh, yes, the example. So the typical language in a family trust is going to give all beneficiaries some sort of authority, whether it's over distribution or naming a successor trustee. That authority is not allowed to the person living with special needs. It will be interpreted by Social Security as giving that person authority, which is interpreted as control. Mm-hmm. meaning that they have control of assets and therefore are not eligible for government benefits. And it is those little things in the family trust which often undo all of the best of intentions.
Okay. So the language has to be very specific to make sure that it can't be interpreted in a way that you don't want it to be, basically.
That's right. That's right. And so now this brings up the constant fear that families have. They go through the process. Let's say they're proactive enough and thoughtful enough to actually take the steps to do the planning they need to do. Then how do they know that what they've done is going to work?
Mm-hmm.
All they have is the word of the person that is doing work for them. They don't know how to verify this. So the good news is you can verify this while you are still alive, giving yourself peace of mind, knowing that what you've done is going to work because you have approval from the only entity that matters, and that's Social Security and Medicare, Medicare.
Okay, and how do you get this approval?
So very simply, when one has created the proper type of trust that can be reviewed by Social Security, which means that Social Security can only review a living, funded trust. Mm-hmm. So that means that the trust exists and it is funded. Funded can be as little as $10. It's nominal just to make it official. Basically just setting up a bank account in the name of the trust and putting $10 in it. There you go. There you go. As easy as that. And then you simply call Social Security. You say, I have a special needs trust I'd like you to review. And it will take them many months to get through it, but let them do that. They are the only ones that have the authority that you're looking for. It is absolutely possible to do. Unfortunately, most families don't do it, but it is the peace of mind that I like to be able to give to families so that they can breathe easier and know, not just trust what I'm saying, but to know for sure from the only entities that matter. Okay. Well, that makes a lot of sense, David. This has just been a wonderful fountain of information. You obviously know very, very well your field and exactly what you're talking about. Is there anything sort of in summation that before we end that you would like to add to what we've already discussed? And also, second question, if our listeners have any questions or want to know more, how can they reach you? Perfect. I did want to answer your question about conservatorship. Where does that fit in? That fits in during this whole process. It is a separate process to creating a special needs trust and all of the documents that go with it, but should be considered all at the same time if your child is approaching or over 18. We can talk about what those considerations might be, but you as parents will know best whether conservatorship is appropriate or not. If conservatorship is not appropriate, then having powers of attorney for mom and dad and children all involved, all adult children, would be an appropriate thing to do. So with that, I know that there are a lot of questions that come up. You feel free to contact me at my website, Serenitas Special Needs Planning. That's Serenitas, SNP.com, SERENITAS, SNP.com. You can also call me at 818-231-6759. You want to repeat that one more time, the phone number, just in case people missed it? You got it, 818-231-6759. Perfect. Well, thank you so much, David, for your time and all of the wonderful information you've shared. I also want to thank our listeners for spending part of their day with us. And, David, I'm looking forward to having you back again very soon to talk about some other very important matters in the field of special needs planning.
I'm Gilda Evans, wishing all our listeners take care of yourself and that special person in your life.